This is Blessed Radio. This is and it's 6 p.m. on Tuesday evening. This is the Spiritual Discussion Program. I'm Saad in Southeast London, and with me as usual is Gregory. Gregory, how are you and how is the weather where you are?
Weather is similar to what you have in London, and one is fine.
Okay, London here right now it's dark, and I would say it's getting maybe warm is the wrong word, but it's not as cold as it has been in the last week when it was freezing. I think we even reached about 12 degrees or 8 degrees at least today. So it's getting warmer now. So might feel a bit strange in a way, but our weather is up and down. And also it has been windy and rainy with this storm, Isha. I think we just had Isha and there's another one coming. Or it's come already actually. So welcome listeners to this spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Uprushin. And every week we have a new topic for discussion. The topic tonight is earthly grave or cremation. Earthly grave or cremation. You're welcome to join us with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text or use WhatsApp. And there's another way you can contact us, that is by going to the website where we are broadcasting this show. The website is called Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1.com. And if you scroll down the home page, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. So you can type in any questions or comments in that chat box, and we will, can see that. I want to begin with, what is the Grail Message? The Grail Message in the Light of Truth by Uprushin is a spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life. For through the knowledge mediated, the reader is again brought closer to life and led back to God. The Grail Message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover through the intuitive perception if what is stated is the truth. Combining with matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses, nor any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the Grail Message, Uprushin. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the Grail message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole without leaving any gaps. Again and again, in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the Grail message lives, so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by it. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with 7 seals. And I'd like to give you one more quote from the author. I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace if he earnestly seeks for the truth. So, dear listeners, just to remind you, the topic for discussion tonight is earthly grave or cremation. Earthly grave or cremation. You're welcome to join us with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And also you can contact us on the website that we are broadcasting from, which is blessradio1, that's the number 1.com. If you scroll down the homepage, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. You can send a message with any questions or comments on there as well. So people might be wondering, oh, how did we choose this topic tonight about earthly grave or cremation? And especially in the UK, we see a lot of adverts on the TV or other channels or media where cremation is being, you could say, promoted for, cheap. It's being cheaper and it's quicker, you can say. So this is what one reason people are using that way, publicizing that. And then, but obviously there's more to these things than people think about. So we want to explore that in this topic tonight. What's actually happening in death, and what's happening in the process of death and after death. So this is what we will be looking at tonight. And of course, these two methods that people conduct the funeral, or which is the earthly burial in a grave, or this cremation. So Gregory, as you know, I always like to look in the dictionary for the meaning of the words in the topic. So the first word we have is earthly. Just to remind again, the topic is earthly grave or cremation. So the word earthly in the dictionary, it says relating to the earth or human life. What do you say about this word in relation to our discussion, Gregory? The meaning here, sorry.
I think you have to explore further because it doesn't give something that we can hold up to in the discussion. Because it said human life. So, and it's referring to earthly. You don't define that which is earthly with by saying earthly.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So because the definition is not good, Gregory, or not clear enough, can you give us a better meaning definition?
Was that the only one that's available?
I must admit, I didn't look any further, if I'm honest. Since you have asked me that, I'm going to quickly look up something. So just give me a second on that. Moment, earthly meaning. Right. Okay. I don't know if this helps, Gregory, but it says resembling. Oh, sorry, that is not earthly. I'm sorry. That's not what I didn't check that properly. Okay. I'm going to look find something else. Here we go. Okay. Yes, this is better. It says this is the meaning of the word earth. Happening in or relating to this world and this physical life, not in heaven or relating to spiritual life. So this is the definition given here for earthly. I'll just repeat that. Happening in or relating to this world and this physical life, not in heaven or relating to a spiritual life. What do you say to that meaning there, Gregory?
These are basically descriptions which are helpful, but in relation to the human individual, again, it's still very nebulous. One will quickly proceed to say, when the earthly is discussed with respect to the human personality, one is referring to a personality that has a body of flesh and also of blood. So the blood and the flesh makes that personality earthly. When that personality has lost use of the body and the blood, then it is no more earthly.
Right. Thank you. I've made a note of what you just said there. Obviously, earthly is not referring directly to human being, but you have made that reference there because of the topic we're discussing, earthly grave and cremation. So we're talking about grave of human beings and human beings being cremated. So I understand earthly grave, it is about the human earthly grave we were referring to. So I got it. You're talking about a personality with a body of flesh and blood. So yeah, so which is also you can call human being on the, but that's not giving the details. So I understand that now. Okay. So the next word in the topic is grave. And again, I checked that in the dictionary, and it says a hole dug in the ground to receive a coffin or dead body, typically marked by a stone or mound. So, Gregory, anything to say about that meaning?
That is precise enough, yes.
Okay, that's good. And then we move to the last word, really, or the last keyword, cremation. So in the dictionary, it says the disposal of a dead person's body by burning it to ashes, typically after a funeral ceremony. So what do you say to that?
Again, that is precise enough for our discussion.
Okay. That's good. Thank you for that. Okay, so this is the definitions for our sort of use in this discussion about earthly grave or cremation. Now, like I said, it's become a topical point at the moment, where I guess people have less money and they're thinking, okay, how can I? Although people don't normally think about death too much, but when they have faced with it, with the relative passing on or someone passing on, they know, and they have to deal with the consequence of that, and that have to bury or decide to do a cremation. Even sometimes people, before they die, they actually do make that decision and tell their relatives what they want as well. So some people are able to think ahead, you can say, in these matters. Now, let's look, Gregory, at what exactly happens in this process of death and burial, and in regards to being buried, let's say, in the earthly grave, and then looking at how it is with the cremation. So if I look at that, let me maybe begin with this question, Gregory. Would you say that the earthly burial in a grave of a dead person is more natural a process, way, to do this way than the cremation? I don't know if it's good to talk about this just now, or we should actually talk about the process of the death itself first. So, but yeah, let's just quickly ask. I'll also ask that. So, Gregory, is the burial in a grave of a dead body of a person, is that more natural way than cremation?
That word "more natural" doesn't give a precise process which many may use, because the one is considered natural, the other one is considered more natural. So it doesn't give any precise picture.
Okay.
So what you will have is that there is, on the one hand, the process in which the human body, which has been discarded, is buried in a hole in the ground, and on the other hand, the body is set alight and burnt to ashes. When one considers these things, one must consider the facts that appertains to the individual that make use of this body, that's activated this body, that got this body into motion, and that the individual having departed, what are the effects, what is the impact of the physical body, which is now there's no more balance, equilibrium between the real individual that makes use of it, which most of the time is referred to as the soul, and the body, which is the container, that container of flesh and blood. What has happened? So you will find that there is a disconnection, because if there were no disconnection, the soul would be in a position to reactivate it. What has happened is an imbalance. How quickly the soul departs further and further away from the body it has utilized depends on the maturity of the individual personality, which has discarded this physical body. There are some who quickly bury this body in a hole in the ground. There are some who prefer cremation. If, however, the maturity of the individual is in accordance with the laws of creation, through which the personality first incarnated, and is in such a state that is able to live as quickly as possible because of its maturity, then the decay of the physical body has little or no impact on it. So also the cremation of the physical body has little or no impact on it, depending on its maturity spiritually in accordance with the laws of creation. If, however, that individual is not very matured and hangs around nearest to the physical body, then you have a state in which the connection is still very, very faint, but has a very slight impact on the personality. So you will find that whether it's cremated or is buried in a box in the ground, all this depends on its maturity. The stronger its aim after high spirituality, the faster it will rise and distance itself from the physical body. With that as the fact, one may then choose which one wishes. For one thing is clear, that which the human personality has as an intrinsic feature is the free will to decide.
Thank you very much, Gregory, for this answer. From what I understand from what you said there, it is not the method of burial, I can't know how to put this, burial or cremation that is so crucial in this process of departure of the deceased one, but rather the state of the deceased one, which, as you said, the more mature they are, the easier or the quicker they can depart from the earth, you could say, or from their body. In fact, I think there's a key point there, Gregory. There's a connection between the soul and their body, the one who's deceased, and which, if you maybe people have not thought about that at all. When they think somebody's died, they just think of the person's body, or they think the person is the body. But here we are talking there are two things. There is the body, and then you could call it the living soul. So on the earth, when they are alive, that soul is living in that body. So death is basically a departure of the soul from the body. So what it leads to for me, Gregory, it means, when you're alive, you feel pain of the body and the soul will feel that pain as well. I guess that is right to say that. Oh, am I right, Gregory? When we are alive, so don't worry, just a little bit before we talk about death, does the soul, so if we are, let's say, injured on the earth, and obviously our body feels pain, but does it also impact on the soul, Gregory?
Pain, sorrow, happiness, or unhappiness, these have an impact first on the frontal brain, which is then transmitted to the back brain, and subsequently it has an impact on the soul. So these things have an impact. Why? Because these are radiation vibrations. These radiation vibrations, they have an impact on first the back brain, because when one is very happy or one is sorrowful, these are states of the individual. And these states radiates. In these states of radiation, it has an impact because there is a connection between the physical body of flesh and blood and the soul. However, the impact is not so severe on the soul as it is on the physical body. For in some cases, the connection is loosened, as in the case when one is asleep. However, once one is awake, that connection is reestablished. So it depends on the states of the individual, the state of maturity. Like it's been stressed, joy as well as sorrow, happiness or sadness, all these states have an impact on the frontal brain, subsequently transmitted to the back brain, and finally to the soul, where it uses these states to mature. Hello, Mr. Faruqi.
Apologies. I put myself on mute and I was talking while I was on mute. So thank you for this answer, Gregory. What I was thinking now, Gregory, that this you've already pointed out about the soul, the maturity of the soul sort of indicates or how can I put it? So the departure of the soul from the body, let's say the speed of that departure depends on the maturity of that soul, but everything still is related to time there. So what I'm wondering, Gregory, so when a person dies, Even if you're let's say you're the most mature soul, how quickly can the soul leave the body? Yeah.
When you yourself said, even if you are the most mature soul, what parameters do many a person use to determine the most mature soul? The maturity referred to here is immaturity in accordance with the creative laws which have come into existence in motion. Motion being a law in creation. As is well known, as has been explained many a time, that motion in which the end flows back to the beginning, that is what one refers to as a vibration. That is what one refers to as a reciprocal activity. The arms or the features of that motion in which the end flows back to the beginning will be basically reciprocal activity and the attraction of homogeneity. In the case of the attraction of homogeneity, a soul that has matured to such a state that deep within it, its perspective, its view is to sever itself, or has a strong wish to be able to leave the physical body and proceed for further experiencing. Within the laws of creation, there are helps. There are helps which has been provided for in the wisdom that granted, in the wisdom and love that granted creation to come into existence. These helps are beings that are responsible for the maintenance of activities, of processes in nature, in creation. In that case, in the time of birth on earth, it must be very well noticed that it was these beings who wove the threads, which threads permitted it to have the soul connecting to the physical body. These threads give a platform which one may refer to as the astral body. Therefore, at the time of departure, it is these same soul, these same beings, in their workings, that are responsible in the severance of these threads, the threads which connect the physical body to the so-called astral body. And the faster or the more matured a personality is, then the quicker is the severance. Whereas the more immature, because the human personality, the soul, still wishes to hang around, then you find the severance of the soul from the physical body now has an impact on both the soul and the physical body, because the intention of the departing one is refusing to go, but to hang around. Therefore, sometimes you have what one may refer to as death struggle. And even after there is some partial severance, the human personality in the form of a soul still hangs around for quite some time until this severance is done gently. For some, basically, it may take a period of time, about 40 days, where then there should be a complete severance in which the soul will have to depart. But there are some who still hang around, not connected to their physical body because there's a disconnection, and still wish to partake of the experiences here on earth, but now they lack the physical body because they cannot activate it. They have no jurisdiction over this physical body because it was only lent to them in accordance with the creative will of the Almighty that permitted him or her to have an opportunity to mature here on earth. So you find these different scenarios, but more precise picture. This can be found within the work In the Light of Truth, the Grail Message of Abraham, in which there are lectures that discuss precisely. Lectures on death, and followed by another, departed this life. It's all there. It is hoped that in examining, in weighing this work and examining this work, the human personality will use not only the deeds it finds here on earth, which deeds are perceptible to the five senses, but also use his or her thoughts, and above all, his or her intuitions. Only when the intuitions are considered with the thoughts and also with the deeds, these three considered altogether, how one in its movement may precipitate the other. Only then will the human personality come to personal convictions of the operations in nature, in creation. Then all doubts will vanish.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for your detailed picture and explanation, of this departure process, or timing of the departure process of the soul from the body, with the various aspects of the maturity of the soul and the attitude of the soul, at this time of the death. So, which all played their own part, in this, you could say, next step of his life or her life. So thank you for that. Now, dear listeners, I want to let you know you're listening to Bless Radio. It's a Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abraham. And if you wish to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, message.com. And the topic we're discussing tonight is earthly grave or cremation. Earthly grave or cremation. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's another way you can contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting on, and that is blessradio1, that's the number 1.com. Scroll down the homepage and you'll see a box called Bless Chat, and you can message us on there, Bless Chat. As I mentioned, we are broadcasting on blessradio1, the number 1.com, but also you can listen to us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's again the number 1 there, space, live stream. That's for the live show, which we broadcast on Tuesday evenings from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. You can listen to the recording of this show the next day, also on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box, Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1, space, Grail Message, space, the topic of the show, which tonight is earthly grave or cremation. And of course, you can listen to our previous shows as well, the recording of the previous shows, also on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno. That's ZENO.FM/Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1 again. Now, Gregory, we have made it clear that the soul of the deceased is connected to the body, or it's only connected to the body when they're alive. And then there's a process at death where the soul is leaving the body. And I asked you already about the timing of this departure. So, but in the topic, our topic tonight is earthly burial, earthly grave or cremation. And we already have determined that the soul does feel pain or sorrow or happiness, while it is connected with the body. So during the, let's look at the earthly burial first. Gregory, when there's an earthly burial happening, what is the soul? Is the soul still connected? I know you gave a rough timing. It can take even up to 40 days. Well, not up to, let's say 40 days. It would not be unusual for the soul to totally disconnect from the body. So that could be even in the grave, that the body would be, the spirit, so the soul would be connected still to the body. Taking time. Obviously, things cannot happen in a second. It does take time, and then, so does it feel any, I just want to understand, in regards to the earthly burial, grave, sorry, what is the soul able to experience? Can it communicate with the people on the earth, or vice versa? Can they communicate with each other? And how so? Is because the body functions are no longer working, because the body is now, the heart has stopped and the brain is not working and so on. So can you please explain, is there, first of all, there's any sort of communication possible between the departed soul or departing soul, the deceased in the body, deceased still in the deceased body, with the people left behind?
Of course, there is communication. But the question is, what type of communication? When the physical body of flesh and blood was still activated, was still animated, it made use of the five senses for its communication. However, when the blood stops flowing and the physical body is no more animated by the spirit, or what's now referred to as the soul, then these five senses, these five earthly senses, which are local to the body, they are no more active. And because they are no more active, they cannot be used. However, the inner personality, which is of spirit, has always communicated with others using its intuition. So the soul is still able to communicate using its intuition, because that is what is left for it. However, because others all this while have never practiced communication with their intuition, they are unable to respond to it, or it passes them by, because they are not sensitive enough to the intuition of the other person. So you find, yes, communication continues. But the sad thing is that those on the earth who really have never, ever practiced or noticed anything of intuition, it's like there is a language which is out there which they are unable to recognize. And therefore, the lack of recognition becomes the barrier. For there are many signs that are used for communication. In fact, the whole of nature communicates with the individual, just as the individual communicates with nature. The same thing happens with the soul of man, communicating with nature and nature communicating with it. The same thing happens interpersonal communication. The intuition has always been ubiquitous, has always been there. Therefore, should the human personality wish to understand creation aright, it must come to terms with its intuition.
Thank you, Gregory, for this answer there. Now, usually, when a person dies, the loved ones' relations, come near, and they are grieving and mourning for the one who's passed. And so you could say, would you say that comes into the like a blockage for them to? This is the relatives I'm talking about who are grieving, because they are so. I don't want to use the word occupied too much, but they're so much focused. Let me just use the word occupied. They're so occupied in their grieving, and even maybe distressed with the passing of their loved one, that maybe they're not open to anything else. I mean, don't forget, they're thinking the person is dead now, so they probably don't want to communicate anyway. They just were, upset about the losing somebody that they love. So does that cause an obstruction, Gregory, with them being able to use their intuition in communicating with the past one who is passed on? And yeah, that's in the one direction. I want to ask that in one first.
Communication is not one-sided. For when communication is mentioned, you have to communicate with something. So even if the departing one communicates with the so-called loved ones, and the loved ones are unable to sense its presence or departure, then the problem is not with the departed one, but those who, due to their rigidity or obtuseness or due to their insensitivity, are unable to perceive that which is alive. So, when in their activities they are only focused on sorrow, the departing one cannot all of a sudden come back again in that body and start saying, sorry, I know I'm no more going. The fact must be considered that anyone who has been born to the earth will grow, mature, and get to a certain age, and will have to depart. The person who was born to the earth, granted a physical attire to utilize, to experience here on earth. What does that mean? It means, therefore, that this personality already existed before incarnation, and that its stay here on earth is only a temporary one. Is there any evidence of someone who has lived to be 1,000,000 years old? Life here on earth, or living here on earth, is a temporary one. And therefore, there is the birth. And then, subsequently, there is the death. The death is that process where the physical body is discarded, such that the personality that made use of this physical body proceeds further in its maturing, just as it was initially before incarnation. So when people show sorrow, are they expecting that that process through which they came, through which they themselves will go, will now have to be reversed in an arbitrary manner? Sometimes the sorrow is due to lack of knowledge of the creative laws, or there have been opportunities. Which opportunities existed when that departing one still had use of the physical body and was able to parley with relatives, was able to have joint activities with relatives. Sometimes these so-called relatives did not see the need for such activities and therefore withdrew. But now that the personality has departed, they feel or they sense an inner emptiness of a loss, which loss is now theirs. And that personality whom they have ignored has moved on. So the type of sorrow that comes from human personalities, which sorrow has its basis on the lack of knowledge of the laws of nature or the laws of creation. This lack of knowledge itself is sorrowful. Why? Because the departing one can, in the nearest surrounding, still perceive of them through their thoughts, can see them, yet striving to communicate with them, and there is no response. Of course, it, the departing one, will be sorrowful and will be asking why. You should not forget that not too long ago, he himself or herself was just like them. So the time has come for human personalities who have use of the physical body of flesh and blood to strive to understand aright what birth is, what maturity is, and what transition, which they refer to as death, is. Only with that knowledge of the purpose, of the aim, of why the human personality is here on earth to mature, only that understanding can set the human personality free. Free from ignorance, free from stupidity, free from blindness.
Thank you very much for this answer, Gregory. I mean, what I can see here is people really don't believe in life after death, or even try to find out about it. So it's no surprise when a loved one passes on that they are mourning and grieving because they've lost somebody, but they don't know really what's happening, you know. But you've also pointed out that the one who has passed on is able to see the ones who are left behind. And but I was wondering, Gregory, what about you could say, the belief or knowledge of the one who has passed on? Does it not? You talked about, earlier, just in the show, we talked about the maturity and of the departed one determines how quickly they move on, you can say, from leave their body, but I'm wondering, with regards to being able to perceive or see um, their the departed one, seeing the people left behind, um, how because he doesn't have his five senses now, and you said you can only use the intuition. Um, so how are they able to see uh, the people who have been left behind, the one who's departed? Is the intuition able to see in as well? Because normally you think of intuition as a sensing or feeling, um, not something, not like view, you actually see something as such. So I just want to understand that. How can the person who has passed on um, see the people left on the earth?
What is referred to as intuition, or more precisely, holistically, the intuitive perception, is a picture without words, more or less like a vibration, a high vibration which presents a picture without words. Here we are, you on one side, I'm on the other side. In our discussions, the words which you speak or which I speak are converted into electrical vibrations before they are propagated. And there is a receiver that receives it and then translates it back to words or pictures. So from your phone or from what we have, you can speak to somebody, you can see his picture. However, the transmission of these waves, you do not see the picture in the transmission of these waves. You do not see the picture of the person or the words of the person. You cannot hold them or see them or perceive them with your gross material or with your earthly senses until they are converted back. That's how we are able to communicate right now. Therefore, it is a fact, because that communication exists. That is a minor example and explains how the intuition works. So, intuition to intuition, that which is referred to as earthly, it has a copy in the sense that here on earth it is alive because it vibrates. And whatever occurs on earth gross materially, that has an impact or has an impression on what one may refer to as the ethereal. And that is what the personality uses, that is the medium the personality uses to perceive of the thoughts. Which thoughts, even here on earth, we are unable to see. But we ourselves, we know we have thoughts. Or do we dismiss it that we don't have thoughts? In our thoughts, we can see a picture, but they are thoughts. And we cannot see our thoughts. Neither can we smell them. Neither can we hear them. With the intuition, it's an internal sensing of these vibrations, and then they're interpreted. That is only an infinitesimal explanation one is able to give. For some who wish or who strive to know more, they are invited to examine the work in the light of truth. The Grail Message of Vibration in a lecture referred to or titled The Intuitive Perception. And there are other lectures, The Inner Voice. It is the task of the individual to strive to understand the connection between the inner voice and the intuitive perception. That is the challenge that each personality must go through, such that with the inner clarification, it will see things, the reality of which is holistic and encompassing. Then it will have gained conviction which no person can take from it. It's not a matter of belief, because belief without conviction is like blind faith. You are not sure what you believe. But having examined it in accordance with the creation will and the creation laws, then you feel it and you know it.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for this answer there. I just want to remind listeners, you're listening to Bless Radio. This is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Uprushing. And if you wish to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic we are discussing tonight is earthly grave or cremation. Earthly grave or cremation. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And also, you can communicate with us with any questions or comments on this website where we are broadcasting, which is Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1.com. Now go down the homepage, scroll down the homepage, and you'll see a box called Bless Chat. And you can type in any message there, for us to respond to. And as I mentioned, we are broadcasting on blessradio1.com, and you can also listen to us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box, Bless Radio 1, again the number 1 there, space live stream. That's for the live show, which we broadcast on Tuesday evenings, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. You can then listen to a recording of this show the next day also on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box, Bless Radio 1, again the number 1, space Grail Message, space the topic of the show, which tonight is earthly grave or cremation. And of course, you can listen to the recordings of our previous shows also on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno, that's ZENO.FM/Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1. Now, Gregory, I want to go look at these two methods that are used for, a departure of the soul, to bury or to cremate. So to bury in the earthly grave or to cremate. And, in regards now that we know that we are a soul or a spirit living in this earthly body. And, there's a process of death. So obviously it takes time for the body to decay, and it takes time for the spirit or soul to depart from this body. Now, the first question I ask about is the earthly grave burial more natural than the cremation. Now, obviously, if a person has an earthly burial, they're just put in their body or in a coffin, or maybe just wrapped and put into the earth, to the ground and soil. And then the decay takes over time, some time in there. So just again, Gregory, I just want to confirm, is there any pain experienced by the soul while it is in the grave, after the burial? Because it's trying to release itself from the body. So does it feel any pain in this state?
What was discussed is such that in the naturalness of things, it all depends on its direction, on its strivings. It is the strivings that has been accomplished that determine the state of maturity of the individual. But one must look at a scenario first. If somebody is to pass on, and that person, as you find in many situations nowadays, that personality is not buried for 1 month, 2 months, 10 months, some 1 year, some 2 years. That means no hole is dug in the ground. It's left in the mortuary, locked up in a freezer, and left there. It is hoped that in accordance with its maturity, because it's unable to animate the physical body, it would have moved away for further experiencing. If after a period of 6 months or 1 year, the body is now buried in a hole in the ground, or is cremated, the user or the personality that has used that body had already gone. So all these have no impact on it. If, however, in the process of, in quotes, dying, that means in the process of severance from the physical cloak, which physical cloak is that of flesh and blood. If it's in that process, within 5 seconds, it is cremated, then, in all naturalness, that connection is still very tight. And in that case, activities impacting on the physical body to some extent have an impact on the ethereal body. So it becomes very clear that it depends on the time factor. Is it 1 second? Is it 5 seconds? Is it 1 hour? Is it 1 day? Is it 1 month? Is it 1 year? Is it 10 years? All this follow the wishes of the human personality. So the discussion of earthly grave or cremation, that only depends on the inner maturity of the human personality. Like has been stressed, there are some, when they're in the process of severing themselves, some of these personalities, it may take a day or two because they are they are around the physical body. And the desire to come back is there. That is like a feather root that binds them. Although the spirit is trying to wander away, and there are other beings trying to assist it to move away, it still wishes to stay around. So, the activities, the earthly activities, because of its nearness, is able to feel it. So, all depends on the personality, on its inner maturity in accordance with the laws of creation. If within the laws of creation, the human personality that has been granted free will wishes to stay around, of course it will be earthbound. And there are many human souls who are earthbound. That means, for one reason or the other, they are unable to float away. Why? Some of them still love to eat special meals. Some of them still enjoy the way people drink or smoke. And therefore, they are still attracted here. Yet the physical body has undergone decay or has been cremated, yet they are still around. And they can sense your thoughts when it is sorrowful or it is joy. So the joy, if that person is a smoker, a heavy one, and it enjoys the presence of smokers, when it has departed and that craving is still there, of course it comes around to enjoy it, because it cannot hold a stick of cigarette or hold a pipe. Because those things are gross material. They are here on the earth. So one must understand the dynamism of the activities in creation. As the human personality wills it very strongly, so does it, like a ruler is able to navigate. If in its maturity, it doesn't wish to be around, but strive after that which is more noble, then it will not hang around. That is the key for those who wish either to be cremated or to be put in a hole. The decision is theirs.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for your answer there. Now, I'm wondering, I mean, from what you've said, you know, as you said, things, nothing can happen in 1 second. The departure of the soul cannot leave the body in 1 second, and of course you wouldn't cremate in 1 second either. But all these factors of what we do, I want to give an example here now, Gregory. So, for example, the Hindus, from what our research is showing, they like to do the cremation within 24 hours of the person passing, and Muslims also like to bury their dead within 24 hours as well, which is earthly burial in the grave. Obviously, with cremation, the person's body is, burnt, and if that is within 24 hours, I will say it doesn't look too, and that is the majority of things, Gregory. I know you said some people take month, 2 months, maybe 10 months, 1 year, 10 year. Okay, that is not the majority. That's just those long-term things are just very few cases. Most majority people, they bury them quickly, maybe 2 weeks max. Most people would be taken into the ground or cremated, I would say, or maximum 1 month even. So this is the period we're looking at when the soul is trying to depart from the body. So for me, if I look at cremation, I just want to be very clear and blunt about it. It would be very dangerous condition for within 24 hours to be cremated, and because there's no way I can pretty much say 90%, whatever the number of percentages is, going to be a very high percentage that the soul would have departed that quickly. And most people are not that mature. This is quite clear the way we human beings live. We are not mature to in fact, let me say, if the person knew that he would be cremated and he is mature, he would try to go quickly as possible before the cremation starts on him. So this is for sure, I would say, the likely thing. But unfortunately, that is not the reality. The reality is more the other way around. People are, what I want to say, people are doing things in ignorance. And that is let's say, the more likely what people do in ignorance than with knowledge and understanding. And so the purpose of this show is to bring that knowledge, so that when you make a decision about, this is about, you could say life and death matter, although we're talking about death, it is the person is, the spirit is alive, the soul is alive, that is departing. So that is the one we need to consider. So I think in a way, we want people to understand and focus that, yes, you're burying a body or you're cremating a body, but there's an impact on the person who's departing. And that is what needs to be considered, in these matters. And even you can say, even if you're aware that this process exists, are you able to tune in to know what the person that is deceased, that is you are burying or cremating, what applies to that particular person. So there's these factors to think of, which are, I would say, almost no one has a clue. I really have to say like that. They are so ignorant. The ignorance is so extreme that and so high that people, let's say, it's better to be safe than to be sorry in these matters. So give that departed one as much time as possible to depart in a safe way, whatever the word safe means, to that they can continue their journey with as minimum pain as possible. So this is the consideration that I would like people to think about in this matter. So yeah, although we cannot, like you say, Gregory, many times, we cannot advise do this or do that. This is for sure. But the knowledge of the process has to be those who wish to know, that is. If they wish to know, the answers are there, for sure. They are there and they're understandable, but you need to be serious in wanting to find out. That's what I would say is the necessary importance of this understanding. So, Gregory, let me move on to another aspect about earthly death, or burial, sorry, grave and cremation. And in a way, now we don't need to separate the 2 things. We just need to this applies in both cases. So, Gregory, as I say, the loved ones grieve after the person who's passed on. And we've already said can be communication, even if the ones who are left behind may not be able to communicate or not open for that. But the other person who is passed on, he or she is able to perceive, what the people left on earth are doing. So, what's the impact, Gregory, when people, let's say, cry or grieve near the departed one? Does it affect that departed one, or the departed one carries on in spite of that?
Like has been discussed already, the personality is able to sense joy or sorrow. What you yourself just mentioned is sorrow. Sorrow because these ones still having their physical body have the wrong impression that this personality is gone and gone forever. And therefore they are sorrowful. Meanwhile, the departing one who has lost the use of his or her physical body wishes to communicate with those still on earth using their physical body, comes closest to them to assure them that they themselves are still alive. He or she shakes the non-physical body of those people still on earth who were closest to it. And yet, there is no response. He may, through his intuition, shout at them. There is no response. So, the departing one feels more abandoned. The effort it makes to assure those left behind, that effort is such that it is still attracted heavily to this physical body, with which physical body is able to communicate effectively, but to no avail. And therefore, it becomes very sad, becomes dejected at the happening, and yet can still sense the sorrow. So that sensing of terrible sorrow, when it knows that it itself is still alive, that has a severe negative impact on it. But it should not forget that only a short while ago, when it had the use of its physical body, he or she was just like them. But now it is convinced that it has not ceased to exist. And for many, fear of the unknown dawns on it. For it now wonders, there could be reciprocal activities based on its past actions. For many, that is the source of many a worry, because they had sown. For some had sown the wind, they may then reap the whirlwind. For some have sown in wickedness, they may then reap in abundance that which they have sown. For a few who have sown in kindness, of course, in kindness, in accordance with the creative laws, will he or she be helped to better recognition. For in reality, there are always helpers around. But these helpers do not force anybody. As long as the human personality realizes there are helpers around, and in humility asks for assistance, then that channel opens up through which many a help will reach the beseeching one. That is how it is.
Thank you very much, Gregory, for this picture you've painted there. You can say like attracts like. So if you send out sorrow, you bring sorrow, not only to yourself, maybe to others as well. So then you can see the other way around. If you send out joy, you will get joy in others as well. So now some traditions, people, when somebody passes on, they celebrate and dance even. And I don't know if they're celebrating the life of the person departed as such, or they're also wishing them well, in their journey on. Because let's say, it's sort of, you can sort of see why people do what they do at these funerals. If you obviously don't really believe or know that the person is continuing their journey who has passed on, they think that is the end. The death is the end. Then, of course, for you, it is sadness and sorrow, because you think there's nothing more that person will be doing now. But then those who are aware that the person, is moving on in the beyond, and whatever the next steps are for that person, then they can wish the person well. So I guess that's why they're happy, and as I say, even they are dancing. So it's like you can see the two very opposite ways that people behave in these things, and it's the same event that has happened, death of a person. So you, you really have to wonder, oh, what are these things really based on, and of course, another thing, Gregory, is that people are like habitual. They follow the culture and the traditions and whatever their community they're in, that's what they follow. Very few people are reflecting what exactly has happened in these events. I'm thinking that some people who are near death, who are approaching their death, they're even aware that time is coming to go, and they're even preparing themselves for the next world, whether they know what happens in the next world or not, but somehow and you see sometimes when the person passes on, they have a peaceful features, and they're not fearing the death as some others might be, looking at it and trying to resist. No, I don't want to die, really fighting that, and others have accepted it. So you can see how people act in all these scenarios. And then the result, of course, would be, as we say, according to what you do or attitude, that's the result as well. It's the same result you get. So if you think in this simple way, then answers will come, answers will come to you. Now, I want to there's something, Gregory, I would like to look at, which has been in the news. It's not directly related to burial or cremation, but some people, let's say they're experiencing a terrible illness towards the end of their life, and they were looking for a dignified way to die. And some such people are thinking, okay, why should I just become I don't want to say the vegetative state, but in a way that in pain, that they're going to live the rest of the days in pain and then die at whatever point, the death comes. And they're saying, no, I'd rather not go through that. I'd rather, let's say they call it assisted suicide. They think it's a more dignified way to pass on. But of course, this assisted suicide, it's not suicide they do themselves. Somebody has to help them, and they're thinking this, I'm not sure if I can use the word civilized, but it's more dignified is the word they use, to pass on. And of course, there's dangers of abuse there. Somebody can externally could do something. If they want to get rid of somebody, they could do that. But let's not think of those particular scenarios, but more about if somebody's motivated when they are suffering such terrible, maybe terminal illness, and they're thinking that rather than continue to suffer for a very long unknown period, better to, like finish their life, but with assisted dying, they call it. So, Gregory, what is the consequence if somebody takes this route here? In terms of spiritual sort of events, in consequences of it, and even the people who assist with it. What happens? What are the consequences in this sort of scenario?
All life is a blessing. Through the laws of creation, the human personality is granted the opportunity to incarnate here on earth and subsequently to experience events using the five senses while he has use of flesh and blood. In the process of experiencing, there is the need for the inner maturity. With the maturity of the individual, the impressions which assail it, it is able to interpret them. The challenges which it comes across is able to interpret them and make use of them for its maturity. Therefore, if along the line it encounters challenges which are painful, it has the free will to ensure it wishes to continue to experience or not to continue to experience. That is within the basic feature of the human personality, the free will to decide. If, however, he or she discusses assisted suicide, that means it is assisted murder. And yet it is very clear when it was granted in the Ten Commandments, thou shalt not kill. So it should make up its mind. If in the process of undergoing such pain, the human personality changes its wrong inner attitude and becomes more humble, it may be surprised that that inner change will do him or her good in such a way that they may proceed along a track which will lessen the suffering which they themselves are going through. But, like has been stressed, the free will to be or the free will of not to be is never taken away from the human personality because it is an intrinsic feature of the personality. It is how they make use of this free will that enables them to mature in accordance with the creation laws or not.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for this answer there. Yes, you said that everyone has their free will to choose what they want to do, but of course, whatever decision anybody makes, there's always a consequence. So, and I think sometimes people think, oh, this what I'm doing is a humane thing, this assisted suicide, because they think of animals, how we treat animals. They very quickly, if an animal is injured and it's looking like they're going to have a terrible life, they put them to sleep, they call it, and just finish them. So when it comes to human beings, we have a different standard. you can say. So I'm just to look at that, Gregory. Can we, of course, animals are different from human, but like I say, with the animal, if it's in terrible pain, and they can't be healed, or at least we don't know how to heal them, and they are killed, or they don't use the word kill, they say put them to sleep. And of course, with that phrase is not used for human. So what is the difference there, Gregory, when it is done to the animal? Is there, is that not also a murder to kill the animal?
One might as well ask, what happens to animals when we cook their flesh or eat their flesh? What happens to fishes? What happens to the insects? These are the questions each person must contend with. Unless they have availed themselves the knowledge of nature, the knowledge of creation, it becomes very challenging for them because they won't know how to express themselves such that that which may be of guilt will not be there. So when the question is asked, what about animals? All right, they are in pain. Do we murder them or do we put them to sleep? Or what happens when, of course, we eat animals? After all, we eat eggs. We don't eat our eggs, we eat their eggs. We don't eat our flesh, we eat their flesh. How does the human personality interpret all this? Of course, it's easy for one to just go on with explanation. But the advice here would be that the human personality must strive to understand the laws of creation and the impact of its activities on fellow creatures. The intention or the motive which lies behind many of an activity, it is that intention or that motive that, if it swings within the laws of nature, of creation, it is that which brings no guilt or impact a measure of guilt. For more on this, the human personality is advised again and again to examine this work. After all, this discussion is more of an introduction. For there are so very many things that the human personality needs to know in order to avail itself in deep knowledge on how to be in such a way that threats of his activities will not become threats of fate.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for this answer and your urge for us to dig deep, in search for answers, not just to expect every question to be answered just because it's been asked. Each person must make their own effort to get these answers, and then they can make that answer for themselves rather than depend on someone else. So thank you very much for that. Now, Gregory, another question, sort of, these are not related directly to funerals and so on, but just to do with death. So now, some people want to communicate with the people who have passed on, their loved ones, usually. So they go to a medium, because I know you talked about intuition, but I'm talking about some time later. So the departed one may be quite a time has passed since they were buried or cremated. And then somehow, because let's say some people do believe that person is in the beyond, and the departed one is in the beyond. And of course, they have heard of mediums that are able to communicate with these dead ones. And some relatives want to, for some reason, they want to talk with them. For whatever has happened in their life, that there may be something they want to talk to. So, Gregory, I want to ask, is that a good idea to communicate with the dead people who have passed on through a medium?
There is always communication between the departed and those who have use of flesh and blood. The communication is always there through the impressions which they impact on one using their back brain. It is many who have the use of the physical body who are unable to recognize this. And therefore, they now seek the services of a medium, that is, that personality who is able to open his or her inner self to the fine vibrations and subsequently to interpret these impressions and pass it to the seeker. For some cases, they seem to have no alternative. But in many cases, the human spirit needs to develop itself to be able to perceive of these fine vibrations. It needs to mature such that it's able to perceive it, some through dreams, some through visions. Some, of course, will still wish to be dependent on others by going to the medium. But the person who seeks a medium must understand that the medium can only make itself available such that others in the beyond can send impressions to it, and it's these impressions he or she is able to interpret. And that many who visit this medium, they themselves, by their presence, by their inner lives, they are able to impact the environment of the medium, because their thoughts are not just nothing, their intuitions are not just nothing. And therefore, because they themselves contribute to the environment, which environment becomes either light, assisting the medium, or very dense, distorting the pictures the medium is able to receive. That means they themselves also affect the interpretation, the receptivity of the medium. And therefore, whatever result they now get, they should factor in their own maturity or immaturity into it. But life on earth is not based on always depending on others, but to mature internally in order to recognize through activities the challenges which assail the personalities and how to respond to these challenges in accordance with the creative laws. In such a way, the human personality matures step by step, which is the natural thing, and all that he or she has been seeking from a medium, before long is able to receive and interpret that which assails it without the need for a medium.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for this answer there. Dear listeners, we've come to the end of our show tonight on the topic of earthly grave or cremation. Hope you have enjoyed listening to the discussion. I would like to now read from the foreword of the Grail Message, which is entitled For Your Guidance. The bandage falls, and belief becomes conviction. Liberation and redemption lie only in conviction. I am addressing earnest seekers only. They must be able and willing to examine this matter objectively. Religious fanatics and irresponsible enthusiasts may hold aloof, for they are detrimental to the truth. As for the malevolent and prejudiced, they shall find their sentence in the very words. The message will strike only those who still carry within them a spark of truth and the yearning to be true human beings. To all such, it will become the shining light and staff. It will lead them unswervingly out of all the chaos of the present-day confusion. The following word does not bring a new religion, but is intended as the torch to help all serious listeners or readers find the right path, which leads them to the longed-for height. Only he who bestirs himself can advance spiritually. The fool who uses extraneous aids for this, in the form of ready-made opinions of others, only walks his path as if on crutches, while ignoring his own healthy limbs. But the moment he boldly uses all the abilities which lie dormant within him, awaiting his call to help in his ascent, he is employing the talent entrusted to him in accordance with his Creator's will, and will easily overcome all obstacles that seek to divert him. Therefore, awake. Genuine faith lies only in conviction, and conviction comes solely through an inflexible weighing and examining. See that you're truly alive in the wonderful creation of your God. Abdrushin. Dear listeners, if you want to get more information or on the Grail Message, or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. Gregory, anything you'd like to say to the listeners to say goodbye?
Wishing listeners a very beautiful week.
Thank you. Same from me, listeners. Have a beautiful week. We'll be back as usual next Tuesday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time with another topic.